And although it's under Islamic control today, worship of the Judeo-Christian God on this site dates back nearly 4,000 years.
Muslims believe it's where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. Jews revere it as the site of 2 biblical temples. It's known as both Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, and Temple Mount.
For centuries, no one dared touch the Temple Mount. But when scientists finally used artificial intelligence to scan its hidden depths, something unexpected appeared beneath the stones.
Well, Jerusalem is a roadmap of the Bible. King David, Solomon, the prophets, the Maccabees, Jesus, the Apostle Paul, all of them walked the streets of Jerusalem.
What they saw left every expert speechless, changing everything they thought they knew about ancient Jerusalem. When the Temple Mount spoke through its soil. For many years, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem was a quiet place with a lot of history and conflict. It was considered the center of ancient Jerusalem by archaeologists because it was where ancient temples were located and prayers were said for many years. However, no one was allowed to excavate or touch this sacred ground due to political tensions and the high risks involved. There were many mysteries hidden beneath the surface of the Temple Mount that dated back thousands of years, but these secrets were unreachable because of the layers of stone and sanctity surrounding them. Then something unexpected occurred. It did not start with a planned excavation or research, but rather with trucks and construction activity. In the late 1990s, workers at the Temple Mount began a routine construction project. As part of their tasks, they removed tons of soil from the area, soil that contained ancient dust. During this time, no one realized that this dirt held fragments of forgotten history. Because archaeologists were not permitted on site, the soil was not analyzed before being taken away. Truck after truck drove down from the Temple Mount and unloaded the soil into the Kidron Valley, just outside Jerusalem's old city. The scientific community was devastated by this discovery. The soil found was not just regular dirt, it had once covered the holiest ground in Jerusalem. Inside it were ancient artifacts like pottery, bones, coins, and possibly sacred items. For historians, it was like finding a valuable treasure buried under rubble and layers of discarded soil. The chance to learn more about the history of the Temple Mount appeared to be lost forever. 2 archaeologists did not want the story to end there. In 2004, Gabriel Barquet and Zaki Dvira had an idea. Since they couldn't excavate the Temple Mount, they decided to study discarded materials. This led to the Temple Mount Sifting Project, a unique archaeological project. Instead of digging into the hill, the archaeologists chose to bring the soil to them. They created a lab outdoors in a park in Jerusalem to start their work. The method they used was straightforward yet impressive. They transported buckets of soil to the site and sifted it through wire screens. After that, they washed the dirt with water. Volunteers of all ages worked together, examining the wet soil for small signs of history concealed in the stones. Anyone was welcome to participate. This included families, tourists, students, and locals.
Sifted through and continue to sift. This is a live project still happening. It's called the Temple Mount Sifting Project, where they sift through the material looking through literally every single bag of dirt.
Excited children on school trips found ancient coins, and travelers from distant places cleaned off pottery shards. Retired residents sifted through sand and stones with patience. What began as a scientific rescue operation evolved into a collective adventure through history. Slowly, the soil revealed its secrets as over 500,000 artifacts were unearthed, each telling a story from Jerusalem's history. Among the discoveries were pottery shards used for cooking and oil storage, as well as fragments of ancient lamps, possibly used in homes or temples. Each piece contributed to the larger narrative of life on the Temple Mount spanning thousands of years. Some archaeological finds date back to the time of Solomon's temple. Ceremonial objects were found in the soil, along with clay seals bearing ancient Hebrew names. Some of these names match those of priestly families from old texts. The seals were used to stamp letters and documents related to temple life, making a connection to the past when holding them. One of the most interesting discoveries was a small ivory comb. It was intricately carved and had one of the oldest Canaanite inscriptions ever found. The inscription was simple, discussing the removal of lice from hair, yet it showed a human connection. Through these ancient words, people from long ago were able to communicate with us today, showing that their daily activities were similar to ours. Other findings showed images of religious beliefs and ceremonies. Bronze incense shovels, which were utilized in temple rituals, indicated how worship was conducted on the hill in the past. Shattered glass pieces sparkled in the sun, revealing details about ancient craftsmanship and trading. Every tiny bone fragment or pottery shard had significance. Overall, these discoveries demonstrated that every speck of soil on the Temple Mount held tales of human existence, faith, and resilience. The project was unique because of its openness. It was not a private lab in a museum. It was an outdoor classroom where anyone could participate. People from all different backgrounds helped to uncover history. For example, a student might find a bead from the Roman era, while a grandmother could discover a piece of pottery from the time of the kings. Every volunteer, no matter how small their discovery, contributed to the overall understanding of Jerusalem's past. The Temple Mount Sifting Project showed how resilient the soil can be, despite being off-limits due to politics and religion for many years. The soil still managed to reveal its secrets and tell its story. The archaeologists demonstrated patience and creativity in turning what could have been a tragedy into a successful archaeological rescue operation. Over time, the artifacts revealed a broad history. The discoveries spanned various eras such as Israelite, Babylonian, Greek, Roman, Byzantine, Islamic, Crusader, and Ottoman. Each artifact contributed to the knowledge of the Temple Mount's development over the years. The hill was constantly bustling with worshippers, traders, builders, and dreamers, never remaining inactive. The discovery of 500,000 artifacts proved that the Temple Mount was a hub of human activity for many years, backing up stories of the first and second temples and showing evidence of various civilizations in Jerusalem. It appeared that the Mount was not only a holy site for one group, but a place where different cultures came together. The project connected people from different backgrounds. In the tent where they were sifting, differences in faith and nationality did not matter. People of various religious beliefs stood together, digging through the same soil. History wasn't just for one group anymore. It was for everyone involved. A mistake led to the discovery of valuable artifacts buried in sacred soil. Once thought to be lost, the soil yielded over 500,000 treasures that revealed stories of prayer, community, life, and hopes based around the hill. The Temple Mount has not been changed much and is still considered sacred and quiet. However, the soil of the Mount has revealed a story of strength, belief, and exploration through the efforts of many people. This shows that history can also be found in the ground we walk on, not just in written records or monuments. The secrets of the Temple Mount may still be buried underground, but the Sifting Project showed that history will always resurface, bit by bit, the hidden world under the temple. For over a century, the Temple Mount has remained undisturbed, a silent and mysterious place. No one has attempted to excavate below it because the ground is considered holy, the history is sensitive, and the politics are dangerous. Archaeologists have wanted to investigate what lies beneath, but the revered hill has been prohibited. It is a location where faith, recollection, and disputes converge, causing every dig into the earth to potentially ignite tension. In recent years, there has been a significant change in the way history is explored. Instead of traditional methods like digging, a new approach has emerged using technology. Between 2021 and 2024, a revolution took place, relying on technology and light instead of tools like spades and brushes. Scientists discovered a way to study beneath Mount without causing any disturbance to the site. This marked the beginning of a new era in archaeology, which is driven by artificial intelligence and scanning technology. Researchers decided not to dig into the ground, but instead they used ground-penetrating radar, which is a less invasive method. This radar can send signals deep underground, and when they bounce back, computers can interpret them to create detailed images. This technology is similar to taking an X-ray of the ground, revealing its hidden structures and shapes that have been long forgotten. Nevertheless, radar by itself was insufficient. The information generated by radar was vast and sometimes difficult to interpret. Fortunately, artificial intelligence was introduced as a complementary tool. AI had the ability to analyze radar data quicker and more accurately than any human could. It could identify patterns, analyze different levels of information, and even cross-reference new images with historical maps dating back centuries. Some of the antique maps were created during British rule in the early 19,000s. These maps depicted tunnels, water systems, and ancient walls underground the city. When artificial intelligence compared these old maps with recent radar scans, something amazing occurred. Hidden patterns, like lines, angles, and shapes, began to appear on the digital screens. The Mount, which held its secrets for ages, was now revealing them. These techniques were not completely new. In Egypt, experts had employed similar technology to examine the Great Pyramids. In this case, radar and artificial intelligence uncovered hidden areas without causing harm to the stones. However, in Jerusalem, the situation was much more sensitive. Discoveries in this city could evoke strong emotions, reopen old wounds, or spark new conflicts. Each image had to be thoroughly analyzed, and every finding had to be carefully considered. The risks were greater here, because this was not just a historical site. It was a spiritual center of faith, revered by millions. The scans showed some amazing discoveries. Radar found evidence of man-made structures, like walls, corridors, and open spaces under the Mount. These were not natural formations, but carefully constructed buildings. Some of the shapes matched areas on British Mandate maps, proving that the technology was revealing real historical sites. The new discoveries in the chambers and passageways were very exciting because they had never been seen before. The images revealed large empty spaces connected by narrow, twisting tunnels. It is still unclear what could be inside these spaces. They might be storage rooms, ancient waterways, hidden rooms, or parts of the temples mentioned in sacred texts. The mystery only got more intriguing with each scan. This work was unique because it was done quietly without disturbing the sacred ground. Instead of lifting stones and creating dust, it used invisible waves, data, and light. It was a peaceful and miraculous way of accessing history without digging in a forbidden area. From 2021 to 2024, a team carefully created digital maps by layering images to uncover what was hidden beneath. Each new discovery led to more questions about the purpose of these empty spaces, who created them, and why they were sealed off. Despite not having all the answers, the research had a significant impact. Scientists were able to explore the underground area of the Temple Mount without causing any disturbance to the peace above it, marking a significant milestone in history. This demonstrated that advanced technology could achieve what manual labor could not. The exploration highlighted that even holy sites could reveal their secrets if they were treated with reverence. The findings were shared cautiously, using precise language to prevent any confusion. According to them, there were underground chambers, passageways, and formations created by ancient civilizations below the hill. They refrained from making any assumptions or guesses. Rather, they just revealed the facts captured by the machines. an unseen realm beneath a highly disputed location on the planet. Experts discovered more connections between the underground structures and historical records as the scans progressed. British maps, ancient writings, and radar images started fitting together like puzzle pieces. This made the past slowly come to life on computer screens, revealing a hidden city beneath a sacred one. The findings also had a subtle charm. For many years, individuals had prayed above the Temple Mount without knowing that hidden rooms were below them. These rooms may have been sealed to protect something or simply forgotten. Now, technology has brought them back to life, not through force, but through the use of light and patience. What could possibly be found inside those rooms? This question lingers in the air like a heartbeat. The chambers may contain items from the time of the first or second temple, or they could be even older, remnants of civilizations that have disappeared long ago. It's also possible that the rooms are empty, just remnants of ancient buildings. The secret beneath the sacred hill. Between 2021 and 2024, there was a major discovery happening beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Many people had wondered about what secrets lay beneath the ancient stones, but no one had previously attempted to dig due to concerns about causing conflict and out of respect for religious beliefs. The ground was considered sacred, holding centuries of prayers, power, and promises. Despite this, scientists found a way to explore without physically disturbing the site. By using artificial intelligence and ground-penetrating radar, experts were able to uncover hidden secrets that had a significant impact on what was previously known. The scans showed more than anyone had anticipated. Hidden layers under the Temple Mount were visible on screens for the first time in history, showing shapes, walls, tunnels, and chambers. It was like uncovering a book that had been closed for thousands of years. Each layer had its own story to tell, with shadows suggesting the hands that had built, prayed, and dreamed in the past. Deep underground, a pleasant surprise was uncovered. A compact Byzantine church dating back to the 4th and 5th centuries. This chapel had been left undisturbed for centuries, displaying intact walls, remnants of an apse, and subtle engravings of crosses on the stone. Additionally, there were hints of Greek writings indicating the presence of pilgrims who frequented the chapel in the past. Constructed during a period when Christianity was rapidly expanding within the Roman Empire, the chapel symbolizes the interconnectedness of religion and imperial power. The chapel shared a lost tale. It showed that this holy hill had not just been visited by Jews and Muslims, but also by Christians who came to pray. It highlighted that the Temple Mount had always been a place for everyone to worship together. Although history may not have favored this unity, the stones retained memories. They echoed the sounds of voices singing hymns and candles burning in peaceful worship. Underneath the chapel, the radar discovered something very old. Large stones called ashlars that were perfectly cut and similar to those found in ancient temples. These stones were the same size and shape as the ones used during the reign of King Solomon. They were not from the Byzantine period or Herod's expansion in the 1st century BC, but rather from an even earlier time, the era of the First Temple. Each stone block held a piece of history, reminding us of the first important building that was once on this hill. These blocks were buried deeper than newer layers, indicating the long history of construction and reconstruction on the Temple Mount. The stones tell the story of one civilization building upon the ruins of another. They have seen centuries of religious devotion, construction, destruction, and conflict. Scholars have debated for many years about whether any remains of the first temple still remain. Some believed it was completely destroyed and gone forever. However, new underground images have provided clear evidence that some ancient stones found were not part of Herod's constructions, but date back to an earlier, more simple and sacred structure. The scans have brought to life what was written in Scripture long ago. However, the surprises continued as the radar scan continued. it uncovered an extensive network of underground tunnels and channels beneath the mountain. This water system was incredibly complex, and unlike anything seen before, resembling a spider's web, the channels connected various water storage areas such as cisterns, aqueducts, and reservoirs. Rather than being haphazard, the system was meticulously planned and executed. The channels were strategically designed to direct water to specific pools, with smaller pipes regulating the flow and pressure effectively. The layout of the system displayed a high level of engineering knowledge and a clear understanding of its intended use. When researchers examined the mineral deposits in the channels, they made an incredible discovery. Certain parts were found to be from as far back as the 8th and 9th centuries BC, around the time of the First Temple. It was evident that this system was constructed not just for practical reasons, but also for religious purposes. The temple wanted a lot of clean water for its rituals. Priests had to wash themselves before ceremonies. Sacrifices had to be cleaned. Holy objects wanted to be purified. Water was essential for every worship activity. Below the mount, there was a system that provided all the wanted water. Every tunnel, cistern, and pipe was carefully placed with dedication and intent. The builders understood that water was not only for survival, but also for purity. One of the most impressive discoveries was a big ceremonial bowl buried deep beneath the mountain. It was made by carving the rock, with sloping sides and a smooth bottom. Ash residue was found inside the bowl, which were believed to be ancient remnants of burned offerings from purification ceremonies. It was easy to imagine priests getting ready for sacrifices, worshippers around, and prayers filling the air along with the smoke. The bowl was a significant spot for worship, where the divine and human intersected, and faith was experienced rather than just talked about. The finding of the basin made the ancient world come alive once more. It was no longer just a tale in books or ruins on the surface. It became something real and concrete, hidden underground. It told the story of a time when the Temple Mount was bustling with activity. The rituals, the flowing water, and the strong presence of faith. Each new finding added more information to the history of the hill. The Byzantine chapel showed how dedicated early Christians were. The ancient stone blocks hinted at connections to Solomon's temple and the beginnings of sacred building design. The impressive water network highlighted the cleverness of ancient engineers who unknowingly served both religion and science. The ceremonial basin brought back memories of sacrifice, showing that the hill was once a place of worship, celebration, and optimism. These discoveries showed a fascinating history. The Temple Mount wasn't just a place with rocks. It was a living record of time. Different empires had ruled, religions had emerged and clashed, but the land held on to their memories. Each layer added to the hopes of those who came before. Underneath its quiet exterior, the mount had safeguarded humanity's quest for the divine. When scientists examined the images, they discovered they were more than just ruins. They were witnessing the deep history and significance of the Temple Mount, with layers of prayer, ambition, and beauty. The hidden chamber. For many years, the Temple Mount has been a quiet and mysterious place. The stories within its stones are ancient, and no one was allowed to touch them. The ground was considered sacred and not to be disturbed by people. Machinery had to be used to explore beneath the surface, as digging was not allowed. Researchers used radar and artificial intelligence to uncover the secrets of the mountain. For a long time, the images that were received were simple: layers of soil, buried walls, forgotten cisterns. There was nothing unusual about them. However, everything changed with one particular scan. This scan was done near the southern edge of the mount, an area that had always been calm and untouched. Initially, what appeared on the screen seemed like just another line of stone. But when the artificial intelligence analyzed it alongside maps from the old British Mandate, the image started to come into focus. The pattern no longer resembled a wall. It was an entrance that had been sealed, silent, and undisturbed for thousands of years. Hidden behind a wall, deeply embedded in the bedrock, the scientists came across something that took their breath away. They found a perfectly circular chamber, approximately 10 feet in diameter, carved directly into the solid rock. Its flawless shape and smooth walls indicated it was not a natural occurrence. There were no signs of damage or decay, suggesting it had been preserved and concealed for someone to discover. The scans inside the chamber showed objects lying motionless on the floor, appearing to be frozen in time. In the middle of the chamber was a large basin made from a single piece of stone. Analyzing the digital data indicated that this basin may have contained ash at one point. This idea made the researchers stop and think. They wondered if these objects could be remnants of offerings from ancient times. The basin was positioned right in the center of the chamber, almost as if the entire room was designed around it. Near the pool were clay oil lamps with simple yet elegant shapes crafted by skilled hands. Traces of soot could be seen around the edges, a reminder of the flames that once flickered within. These small fires had illuminated the underground chamber in the past, possibly during a ceremony or for meditation. Scattered throughout the area were small pieces of incense, remnants of fragrant resin, once utilized in religious rituals. Even in the photographs, their significance was evident. The atmosphere in the room had once been saturated with the scent of worship, wafting upward like unseen smoke to the sky. Next to the incense were little tokens of offering, designed like tiny containers and round discs. These were not valuable items made of precious metals, but symbols, humble offerings left behind by devout individuals in the past. Each token represented a remembrance of belief, a quiet communication from souls that had previously prayed there. The most astonishing find wasn't an object, but rather something engraved on the wall. The scans revealed faint but clear lines resembling letters. Upon closer examination, experts identified them as a Paleo-Hebrew inscription, one of the oldest scripts from ancient Israel. Although the words were few, their significance was profound. The inscription referenced divine presence, indicating that the chamber could have been a sacred place where the heavens and the earth once connected. That moment was a game changer. The normally cool and rational scientists were filled with a sense of wonder. If the translation was accurate, this chamber might be linked to the holiest of holies, the most sacred area in the first temple, only accessible to the high priest once a year on the Day of Atonement. The research team was deeply affected by the idea. The Holy of Holies was not simply a room. It was the core of the old temple where God was believed to be present. Finding a chamber beneath the Temple Mount that resembled it and had been undisturbed for centuries seemed almost unbelievable. Some scientists cried when they understood the possible discovery. Others were speechless and shocked. The distinction between myth and reality had blurred. They were no longer just examining ancient rocks, but something revered and enduring. If the chamber is from the time of the first temple, it would be a significant archaeological find. It would connect the physical remains under the Temple Mount to the stories in religious texts. The lamps of Solomon's chamber. When the underground chamber below the Temple Mount was first uncovered, people around the world were filled with anticipation. The silence inside was profound and seemed to have been waiting for someone to discover it. The first items found were a group of ancient clay lamps, which still bore traces of human touch from thousands of years ago. These simple objects were crucial in revealing a lost part of Jerusalem's holy history. Experts carefully began their study by examining each lamp for its shape, size, and design. They used typology, a method of comparing forms to known historical examples, to trace the origin of the lamps. The rounded bodies, short spouts, and hand-shaped rims left no doubt that these lamps were used in ancient Israel during the 8th and 7th centuries, BCE centuries before Christ. the time of the kings of Judah, and the First Temple. This discovery indicated that the chamber was not from a later time, but from an older time, reaching back to the days of Solomon's temple. Archaeologists see the lamps as more than just pottery. They are like fingerprints, delicate traces left behind by ancient worshippers who once walked in the glow of sacred fire. Each lamp sends a silent message that it had burned when the first temple still stood. It's as if the stones were speaking, remembering the prayers and rituals that once filled the holy air. Geologists focused on the stone basin and ashlar blocks in the chamber after examining the lamps. They examined the limestone closely by taking small pieces for microscopic analysis. The samples were compared to stones from quarries in Solomon's time, and the findings were impressive. The stone's chemical structure, fossil patterns, and texture aligned perfectly with those from ancient quarries that were active during the 10th century BC. Each quarry has a unique identity, represented by the minerals and layers within. The stones found here bear this distinct mark, as they were carved and shaped during King Solomon's reign. This indicates that the chamber was not a newer structure built on top of older foundations, but rather an ancient building from the time when the first temple was adorned with gold and cedar. The findings suggest that the same stones and tools used to construct Solomon's city were also used to create this chamber. The next step in the investigation was the most intricate and stunning part: examining the inscription on the chamber wall. The writing, despite being faded due to its age, was in Paleo-Hebrew, an early version of the Hebrew script. This script was uncommon and only used during the time of the First Temple. Scholars studied its letters and language by looking at similar inscriptions found in cities like Lachish and Gezer that existed during the same ancient period. When they finally saw the message, it amazed everyone there. The message was straightforward, but carried a lot of power. It talked about a divine presence, similar to what is described in ancient texts about a sacred place in the temple that only the high priest could enter. This was not just any writing. It was a sacred statement made by someone who worked in the temple, like a priest, a writer, or someone who took care of holy items. Scholars were thrilled to see scripture and archaeology come together after centuries of waiting. The discovery in Jerusalem showed that the Bible and the stones were aligned in their narrative. The debates about Solomon's temple being real, or just stories of faith, have raged for generations. Critics claimed there was no physical evidence, while believers insisted that the truth was hidden beneath the earth. However, now there was proof rising from the ground itself. The lamps, stones, and inscription provided strong evidence. They were not just stories, but real facts. The sacred room was not a myth. It was a place where people prayed and performed rituals. The oil lamps once lit up the dark corners. The stone basin held burnt offerings. The words carved into the stone declared the room holy.